Hello everybody, welcome to the Signal Box today. Thank you very much for joining me. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe, and we'll crack on with another video. So, I thought today I'd kick off today's running session with some vintage items. So first of all, on track number 2, we'll get going the Daypole 14XX with a couple of 1978/79 Hornby Stanier coaches. I've actually repainted the roofs on these because the paint job was actually all scratched off because they were really old, and I'll bring that round now. And this little Daypole 14XX, as mentioned, originally is from the Airfix range, and then when Airfix went out of business, Daypole took them over and rebranded and slightly retooled their stuff, but not much. And this is a classic example of an Airfix model. With that little short rake of vintage Stanier Hornby coaches behind, which I've pre-painted the roofs as mentioned. And I think we'll get going on track number 1, the Airfix Royal Scot class Royal Scot Fusiliers, which I actually got yesterday in the post from Rouser Sheffield, as mentioned in the previous video. I did actually cheat a little bit last night. I set up an oval of track on the tables and just got it running a little bit in slightly, but as you can see, here she comes, and away she went. Look at that. No problemo. Like I said, for a 1977 model, no problem at all. Pulling that little rake of Eastern Region Mark 1 coaches behind it. So we're all Carmine and creamed up today. We've got Carmine and cream rolling stock on track 1, and on track 2, Carmine and cream as well. Very nice. Just slow her down ever so. Over in the passing loop platform, I've got a vintage item. I've got a 19 breakdown crane. This from about 1978-79, and in the rear of that train you've got a Hornby Triang item there, which is the riding coach. Basically it's an ex LNER Thompson brake third, I think, but it's modelled on the one at Stratford that used to be there years ago in the steam days, as is the crane. And then on the front of the train you've got a Airfix 4F, coupled behind that a 20-ton brake van of Hornby Triang vintage. So it's a little bit of vintage starting to kick things off today on the video, and I hope that you enjoy these items. And I'll just be quiet now and let the trains run. then open up this Royal Scot just ever so slightly. I'll just bring this Royal Scot to a stop on the crossing. I'll show you some bits I've added on it. Just get it to crawl up to the crossing. Well, that'll do. Yeah. Okay. Right. I'll just slightly reverse it. Yeah, so last night I actually added some headlamps, obviously, as you see on the front there, which make it look much more better. And then if I ease it forward, we've got a footplate crew on this now, which were old Hornby black factory produced driver and fireman crew, which I hand painted, sat and hand painted last night. I'll just come in here as best I can. See that or not? You can't see it very well. Tell you what I'll do. I'll just stop this and I'll take it off and I can show you. It's easier. That's better. Right, I can show you more now. That's better. There we go. So those are the two Hornby. They're like, if you ever bought Hornby locos and you get a fireman and driver crew with it, they're factory painted black. Well, I've painted mine obviously and done the skin tones as well on the hands and the face, so they look a bit better. So there's Clive and Ted, my footplate crew, on that turn on that Royal Scot. Not sure, I'll try and turn it around so you can see the other side as well. Bear with me. I'll just turn it around this way. Slightly move the tender and we'll see. That's a bit better, isn't it? Yeah, looks pretty good. Gives it a bit more realism now. Also last night I got an old toothbrush and some soapy water and just gave this coal a bit of a scrub on top there because it was really dusty. So I clean it up a little bit as best I can. So that looks a bit more presentable. But other than that, yeah, there we go. And as you just saw, she runs like a good one. Okay, let's move on. Let's run some more trains. Right. Just out of curiosity, actually, whilst I had that on the table, I picked it up and put it on track 2. See how it does on that tighter radius setup I've got on track 2. And surprise, surprise, she's no problem. Definitely a very good engine, this one. No problem. Excellent. Right, so I think what we'll do a little bit of stabling. So I think what I'll do is, off camera, I'll change those points in the depot. We'll change those ones. And I think what we'll do, we'll come around here and we'll just do a little bit of jiggery pokery off camera. I really should put in point motors, but I'm too lazy. And secondly, when You see how small my layout is, and there's my arm. I can reach over and easily get those. Bigger layout requires definitely point motors, but at the moment I've only got this sort of small layout, so I don't really see the... I know I said I was going to build some little mimic lever frame and do it all from the control panel side and have it, but when I can reach over and do all this from here, at that, I don't see what weighs up the cost of point motors, wiring and solenoids and everything, and then the actual levers. It's a lot of money, so I think the cheaper option at the moment is my finger. There we go. I don't know, I'd like to, but lots of things, sometimes you've got to go with one's pocket. It's an expensive hobby, this, as we all know. So let's do some shunting. And behaves herself quite nicely, look at that, straight in there, brilliant, excellent. So there's that roll Scot class on shed. I think we'll just bring her back slightly underneath. All the way in the shed, I think. There we go. Perfect, that'll do. Okay, time for a little bit of single line working, I think. Single line working, obviously, if you don't know, I've mentioned it before, but if you don't know what single line working is, briefly, it's when a train can go over a piece of railway from A to B in the wrong direction. So we've got engineering works going on. This little Airfix 4F rather competently holding this breakdown rake behind it. So one of the advantages of having a smaller layout, but also having this passing loop, is that you can divert trains onto the other line there and just have more scope to do different things. And like the real railway, it's what we're all trying to mimic. If we have a model railway, those that take it sort of semi-serious, we try to replicate real life train movements. So one of the things that you often see quite regularly on a real railway is wrong line movements. If there's an engineer in possession or emergency engineering works, they will often divert trains in what's called a bi-directional working, which means that trains can travel either way on that piece of railway. Single line working. That does look good going through there, doesn't it? Especially with that vintage Triang item on the back. That Triang Hornby riding coach is this brilliant. Rumbling past those houses. It's quite a difficult vehicle to operate, that crane, because it's got a very large overhang. As you can see, when it goes around curves, the back end of the jib crane itself swings out quite far. So obviously Hornby designed that in mind, that your track spacing, i.e. the distance between the inner and outer set of curves, would allow clearance. Again, a very clever, ingenious design by Hornby with this level crossing, this double track level crossing. It's designed obviously to space your tracks correctly, so you have the correct passing clearance gauge between the two tracks. But that just about, I see it was scraping that little cottage there, so if we just move it back slightly, I think we'll get away with that next time. Again, this is the joy of having, or one of the advantages of having buildings that lift off every time things get packed away, so they're not permanently glued down, most of these, so you can afford to adjust them should you get a little mishap like that. We should be all good now. We should get no bumps from that crane going around there. Yeah, plenty of clearance. Okay, here's a scene from a early 1960s diesel scene. Okay, ladies and gents, it's getting to that time of the video where it's getting ready to say goodbye to you all. Thank you very much for watching today. Hope you enjoyed the trains, hope you enjoyed the running session, and definitely we'll see you again soon in the next video. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. And I always remind myself not to take this hobby too seriously, and this being no exception, coming around now, the most infamous, fastest little 040 ever that ran on rails, Smokey Joe, taking it rather chilled out this afternoon on the railway. For some reason, Smokey Joe loves to run bunker first, because if I put him round the other way, like that you saw a moment ago, it does tend to stall on that set of switches there. These ones here, right in the middle of the frog. But you put him bunker first, and as you can see, he just quite happily gets a nice trundling slow speed out of him. This is one of those little 040s that I don't know why I've got in my collection, but I think everyone who loves model railways has to have Smokey Joe. He's a legend, and he has to be in your collection. And he is quite a nice little 040. You can get some really nice slow speeds out of him. I'll slow him right down if you just bear with me on the controller. I'll just bring him to a crawl, like almost like that. See what happens. Look at that. Bring him back up again a little bit. Rumbling across that little bridge there. Yeah, I remember seeing Smokey Joe when it first came in the Hornby catalogue in the 1980s. And thinking it was somewhat of a little bit of a joke. Someone that had graffitied the word Smokey Joe on the side of the boiler. But it's a very infamous little 040, and it is called the Pocket Rocket for another reason, because it absolutely goes lightning speed. Unless you've got a half decent DC controller, or even DCC for that matter, it does take off. But this is quite a nice little realistic speed for this little 040 pug. They are quite nice little engines, and they do grow on you. A little bit of a personal joke with this engine, because I actually had an uncle by the same first name, and he used to smoke like a chimney. Come to think of it, he actually moved about the same speed in real life, I think. But anyway, little Smokey Joe is trundling around my railway this afternoon. I think I'm going to just dim the lights a little bit, like so, and just leave you with these fleeting passing shots here of my little 040, just winding things down. Once again, thanks for watching, and I will see you soon in another episode of the Signal Box and my railway. Goodbye for now.